Anna Zelenyuk, and welcome to the Philadelphia Business Leaders web series. Today I'm joined by Hal Real, the founder and president of Real Entertainment Group, Inc., who are also the creators of World Cafe Live. Hi Hal, how are you today?
Good, Anna, thanks.
Enjoying this weather?
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
We love it too.
Yeah.
All right, so tell us a little bit about World Cafe Live and how it was established.
Sure. World Cafe Live was opened in West Philadelphia, near Penn and Drexel, in 2004, 11 years ago. And, I started World Cafe Live because I wanted to create a clubhouse for the music and arts community in greater Philadelphia. And by that I mean a place that really was open just about every day and night of the year, a place where people of all ages were comfortable coming, sharing in music, right. And a place that would become known as a clubhouse in the sense that it was great for musicians, it was great for audiences, great for families, great for kids, great for grandparents. So, looking back on 11 years, one of the most fun things to me is when I have somebody tell me, I saw my grandson play there, or when I have somebody come here who's getting married here, who then brings their kids here, who's gotten married here and brings their kids here to our Peanut Butter and Jam series. Or somebody who came as a kid to Peanut Butter and Jams, our Saturday morning kids series, 10 years ago, and now is in one of Philly's great rock bands. Right. All of those ties make us a clubhouse for the Philadelphia arts community, and that's what we set out to do, and we're very proud of it. Every city has lots of, and I don't mean to say this in a condescending way, but lots of boxes with a bar, lots of bars, lots of clubs, lots of places where if you're between the age of, usually over 21, so between the age of 21 and 25, or if you're a music head like me, 30, you'll go out and the shows start kind of late and they're kind of loud and it's pretty much of a partying place. Well, we're a partying place too, but we are trying to be a place where everybody's comfortable, whether they're under 21, over 30, or 21 to 30. And that was the goal, and that's very much what we've, achieved.
Right, and I love that personally because I feel like it's more intimate. It's a different environment. You get that music aspect, but you also, feel like you can be relaxed and comfortable with the people around you, So just tell us about yourself a little bit. Was entrepreneurship something that was always in your blood, or did you get this idea and you thought, I want to make a business out of this?
All of the above. I mean, sometimes when I speak to business students and they'll say, how do you know if you're an entrepreneur? And I say, because you wake up in the morning and you can't help yourself. You wake up and you say, oh, there's something that needs to be done and I'm going to do it. So the first time I did that, I was in 9th grade. I had too many babysitting jobs. Okay. So I started nighty-night babysitting service.
So it was in your blood.
It was in my blood, absolutely. I got up to 100 sitters that were babysitting for people, paying me, $1 or 50 cents or whatever for finding the job for them, until my dad's insurance agent sort of busted me and said, if one of those kids burns a house down, you're in big trouble. And it was nighty-night for nighty-night. But today I would have said, there's a way to mitigate that risk, Dad. Come on. We'll find somebody to insure it.
So many years down the line, right?
Yeah. But I went on to, for a variety of reasons, I guess I aspired to be an improvisational jazz pianist myself. I've played piano since I was 4. Life leads you and you lead life, and it's a delicate balance of the two. When I was in the second week of my sophomore year in college, my dad, an important figure, I'm mentioning him for the second time, dropped dead of a heart attack. He was 50 and I was 19. And to stay in school, I had to play my little hands off, not the improvisational jazz that I wanted to play, but what people wanted to pay me to play. Mm-hmm. And by the time I graduated college, if another rowdy person in another bar wanted to hear another Van Morrison cover or classic jazz, Duke Ellington, whatever, I was going to, hurt myself. So I decided that playing the music was too precious to me to have it be sort of corrupted or vulgarized by just playing requests that people wanted to hear.
Right.
But I think that always gnawed at me and informed my future. Mm-hmm. So I went on to have a pretty successful career both as a commercial real estate attorney, lawyer,
Okay.
and as an entrepreneur, starting various companies. Somewhere, I guess, about 15 years ago, it became very clear to me that people over the age of 30 in particular were not going out casually to hear live music. They were only going out to hear live music that was nostalgic to them. They were going to stadium concerts for what was popular when they were between 18 and 25. And I asked them why, and they said, well, my feet stick to the floor, the sound's bad, the bathrooms are disgusting, the show starts too late, and on and on.
Right.
And I thought, wow, there's a huge underserved audience of people who just don't have a place to go, where they can get something decent to eat and drink, catch a show, discover new artists, hear artists who are already known, and go home and go to bed and go to work the next day. So we gotta create a place like that. And if I hadn't had my years of both business and legal experience and my track record of community service, we couldn't have made this happen, because those were the three legs of the stool that allowed me to start such a unique enterprise as World Cafe Live, and to partner with our great partners at WXPN, the greatest public radio station in the country.
Right, and I think that's great that you did, dabble in those industries, and now, I mean, that's probably one of the reasons why you have such a successful business.
It's been very helpful, and I didn't really, you asked what it is. For anybody who's viewing who doesn't know, I should explain that in West Philadelphia, it's a building that houses the studios and offices of 88.5 FM WXPN, a very nationally acclaimed radio station, public radio that does rock and roll, basically.
Right.
And the other half of the building are our two live music venues, which include restaurants, bars, and also event spaces. So we, last year, for example, did about 550 ticketed shows in the two venues in the building, about 200 free shows, about 200 parties, events, from weddings and bar mitzvahs to big corporate conferences and fundraisers, as well as serving lunches and dinners and all those kinds of things. So it's a very busy clubhouse these days. That's what we do. And our Wilmington location is similar, though Wilmington is just now going through a revitalization. They courted us and asked us to come to be a catalyst for that revitalization. So it's not 360 days a year like Philly, but it's going to get there.
It's gonna be, and I feel that it definitely will. I mean, just so much success here, and people love it. They're coming back. You guys have new events every year, new audiences. I mean, obviously, I definitely understand that this business is scalable. That's probably why you opened up another venue in Delaware.
If we have the opportunity, we'd like to do more.
So tell me a little bit about the responsibilities as a founder and a president of such a great company.
Thanks. You're the proverbial chief cook and bottle washer. I mean, on the one hand, there are lots of times when I feel like, wow, nobody needs me because this is such a well-oiled machine.
Right.
And that's because we've been open for 11 years. I have a tremendous team of people who know our business better than I do. My job is really to make sure that they have all the resources they need, all the support they need, especially as we do change players or add positions, that I can help mold the organizational structure with them. And we have about 70 angel investors, so I'm in charge of making sure that they all know what we're up to and are in tune with where we are. But I would say the most important job is I'm the brand cop.
Okay.
I'm the one who has to be always looking from close and afar to say, is that right? Is that who we are? Is that what we are?
Is that where we want to be?
Is that where we want to be,
Yeah.
and where do we want to go?
Yeah.
And, I don't want to make it sound like a static thing. I'm not somebody who believes you do your business plan 15 years ago and you look at it like your Bible. I think especially when you're dealing with consumers and you're in retail to a certain extent, and the music business and the food business, trends change every other day.
Exactly.
So but in the big picture, I think what hasn't changed is why I did this and why everybody who works here comes to work every day, and that's pretty simple. We want our guests to have fun.
Exactly.
We're in the fun business. What we do is we give them an experience. And how we do it is what's always changing and always complicated and always needs to be refreshed. But keeping your eye on what, some people will say, well, the why, I'm keeping your eye on the why. Some people will say, well, what do you mean, why do you have your business? You have your business to make money. That's not a reason to have your business.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Jobs did not create the first iPhone because he wanted to make money. He wanted to create a great device that changed people's lives.
Exactly.
And, why we started World Cafe Live and why we do what we do is not to make money. Why we do it is to make sure that you have a great time. And when you leave here, you say to everybody you know, I have the greatest time every time I go there. The music's great, the people are great. I want my staff to have a great time. I want our performers to have a great time. If that happens, we'll make money.
Exactly.
But that's a byproduct of having achieved your goal of making sure everybody's having fun.
Yeah, and I would completely agree. I mean, the passion, I think that's where it stems from. If you have that passion, everything else falls into place. And you stick with it, which you did amazingly. So World Cafe Live is such a multi-layered business. Just like you mentioned, it's a music hall, a restaurant, and an event venue for both private and corporate events. It's so difficult to sustain a company and succeed in just one of those industries. But you guys are doing it so well with the three combined. Obviously, there has been some bumps in the road. Tell us a little bit about some challenges you faced.
Oh, sure.
How did you overcome them?
Yeah. Well, first, let me say that, 11 years later, it's a lot of fun. So it keeps us fresh and it keeps us on our toes. I think at first it was very difficult because for such a little group of people in a little company, it was kind of like we were IBM, we had departments, and so, food and beverage had their thoughts, and music had their thoughts, and events, sales, and management had their thoughts.
Right.
Now it's really one cohesive team. So there are a variety of ways that we handle it. Honestly, the toughest part was for the kitchen, because when we started, the first 3 or 4 chefs we went through in the first year, and we've been very stable since then, the first year or two was tough, we would have chefs who would come in and say, this is impossible. You can't ask me to do dinners for 300 people sitting down for a show in the restaurant upstairs one night, and the next morning I've got a kids show and I'm supposed to do a kiddie buffet, and then I've got a wedding with plated dinners. It's impossible. But it's not impossible, but it takes a certain headset and it takes a certain amount of experience to figure out how to make all that work. Today, if most of our wonderful kitchen staff back at the house doing the cooking and planning, and even our serving staff, the front of the house, if they were just working at a restaurant that changed its menu twice a year and had a few specials, they'd be bored to tears. Now they're like, what do you got? Bring it on, come on.
There's nothing we can't do.
They
have the hunger
take
for it.
such pride
Yeah.
in the fact that we can turn on a dime and do whatever it needs to be.
Yeah.
So that really is kind of fun. Everybody works very hard. This room we're sitting in can be a classroom, it can be a party room, it can be a music hall, it can be a beer festival, but it really keeps it fresh and nice. And it's all about good communications. So the staff meets in various groups, for various reasons. There's a music meeting, obviously, every week to talk about what new shows have been booked, what shows are coming up, what the marketing meeting every week talks about what shows need help. Does the restaurant need help? Holidays are coming up. What does the event staff need to help promote more events for the holidays?
Right.
So they meet as interdepartmentally on marketing, on music promotion and booking, and on events. And then the biggest meeting of the week, which really is where it all comes together, is there is a weekly meeting both in Wilmington and in Philly, where all of the different disciplines come together to talk about the week ahead, this specific week, event by event by event. What's coming up, who's got what covered, so all the way down to the nitty-gritty of, is there valet parking for that? Do we need a coat check for that?
Right.
What's the layout for the seating arrangement? is housekeeping ready to make that move, or do you need help from the wait staff to do that? You know, the real granular, because we're in the event business, and if you add up all those numbers I gave you, you know, this building is doing 1,000 events a year, really.
Yeah.
So it takes great communications, and that's a lot of discipline. Everybody's got to show up, and you only can go through it once, and everybody's got to get their marching orders and carry it out, and it's a whole team, and if you drop the ball, others are going to try and help pick it up for you, but hopefully you're not going to drop it because
Yeah, it
you're a
seems like
professional.
it definitely goes back to what we spoke about when hiring people. You know, you want to have a good listener, a good communicator. It ties a lot into the business and making sure the business, you know, thrives in this environment, in this economy, and, you know, against your competition. So I feel like I definitely agree with you on that. And just so we know exactly how you go about, you know, there's so many people, entrepreneurs, people that want to go into entrepreneurship, but they're afraid of failing. They're afraid of, you know, what if I do this wrong and, you know, I'm completely shut out of this business, of this industry. You know, what would you say is the secret sauce to creating and sustaining a successful business?
Well, I mean, I don't think there's one secret sauce, but I do think the most important ingredient in anybody's sauce is passion. But that comes also with a caveat, which is unbridled passion does not a business make. It's got to be a passion that's got a good dose of realism and practicality. Now, granted, somebody could look at me and say, how can you say that? You created something nobody had ever done, you know, that you had to raise $5 million just to get the doors open and more to get it to where it was stable.
Right.
Was that practical and was that feasible? Well, the only thing that made that practical and feasible was my background. So a lot of times people look at me and they say, well, you know, you started on this when you were 45, you opened it, it actually happened when you were 52, now you're 62. Don't you think you're too old to be in the rock and roll business, and don't you wish you were younger when you started it? I couldn't have. I didn't have the track record and reputation for people to invest and lend the money. I didn't have the credibility in the community until I'd done all the community work that I've done over these years. And I certainly couldn't have done it without my substantial business and legal skills and practice. So sometimes the stars have to align. So having passion by itself is not enough. You have to have passion, but then you've got to measure the other pieces of it. And, you know, those are the other P's, you know, who are your partners? Well, where's the purse?
Exactly.
All of those kinds of things are critical. But at the end of the day, you know, if you start something that you've got a passion for and you're disciplined in trying to figure out how to make that a reality, whether you get to realize on that passion today, at the beginning of your career, or midway through your career, or toward the end of your career, that's not the question. It's whether you can realize on it at all that's important.
Right, exactly.
And I think you have to take every opportunity to learn all through your career. Like I said, knowing the questions is more important than knowing the answers. And people are very willing to help you and to teach you and to coach you. I mean, I look at my calendar any week and I'll have given anywhere from, you know, 1 to 10 hours that week in trying to help other people who are interested in some aspect of what we do, like this.
Right.
So the knowledge is out there to be had. Just don't, you know, listen, the fear of failure is a very healthy fear. It's a great motivator.
But it stops a lot of people as well.
Well, it does stop people, and the question is that stopping you because that's rational and you should see a big yellow caution sign? Or is it stopping you because you're afraid that you've always been successful and you might make a mistake? Look, you can spend your life being afraid of failing and never do anything. It's much better, as they say, to have failed, to take the risk and failed. You learn more from your failures.
Right.
Not everything I've started has been successful. I've learned the most from taking failures and turning them into something successful. So, you know, One of the most successful guys I know in the music business today, the founder of one of the major music festivals, and I won't mention him by name, one of the first and best music festivals in the world, started in the music business by opening a venue smaller than this, and it went into bankruptcy. He learned from that, and he took the knowledge from that and went on to have a tremendously successful career in the music business. So failure is in the eyes of the beholder. Failure, to me, is never trying. That's failure.
I completely agree. I completely agree. And so you had World Cafe Live. Now you're going into, well, you have already gone into nonprofit sector of business
Sure.
with Live Connections. Can you tell us a little bit about what were your thoughts behind that and how it came to be about?
Yeah. Live Connections came about because about 8 years ago, as I saw the, very knee-jerk reaction to budget disaster in the Philadelphia schools, the knee-jerk reaction was cut the arts programs. I mean, 2 seconds after there was a budget disaster, the first thing is cut the arts programs. I understand, there's this phrase called STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And for America to compete, we've got to be stronger in STEM. But I'm sorry, I believe in STEAM, which adds arts to STEM.
Right.
Science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Because if you don't have the arts, you're only thinking with one side of your brain. And you cannot compete in this world without thinking with both sides of your brains.
Right.
Nonetheless, they gutted the arts programs. So I pulled together a focus group of arts educators, performers, funders, and business people. And I said, I'm willing to contribute significant resources of World Cafe Lives to address the need for underserved audiences, particularly students and physically and mentally challenged folks, to have innovative, worthwhile live music experiences. Are you interested in forging a bond where we do this together? Every one of them said yes. And these are people from the classical world, the jazz world, the rock and roll world, and as I said, the teaching world, the funding world. So we started Live Connections. And I'll just say that in our first 8 years, we've brought 35,000 kids or physically and mentally challenged folks into our 2 venues, about 100 at a time, for an hour-and-a-half session. Local artists, they're not big stars, they're artists, and what we're doing is we're giving kids great experiences. They're cross-genre, they're very interactive, and we're also cross-pollinating the artists. So the rock and roll guitarist who played with the string quartet now appears on their CDs and vice versa.
Okay.
And out of this cross-pollinating of the artists, we now have a series of concerts that are commissioned, where we have artists from different genres working together to do new works that are mind-blowing, that you can't possibly label. You can't label the artist and you can't label the art. They're just fun. It comes back to fun again. Fun with music.
Fun.
So Live Connections is doing very well, and we'll do about 50 of these bridge sessions this year, bringing these audiences in, and do a series of concerts, about 6 of those this year.
So now you have so many people are going to be afraid of you now in the nonprofit sector of business.
Oh, I don't think they'll be afraid. I've always been involved. I was the chairman of the Cultural Alliance. I'm a big believer, but I think that nonprofits are learning, and they need to keep learning how to operate in a more business-like manner. They can't. There's too many nonprofits for the dwindling number of foundations and large individual philanthropists. So. It's, whether you're nonprofit or you're for-profit, you're running a business.
Right.
And it's just a question of what sources you're using for that funding.
Right. All right, and lastly, we would like to know, what experience would you like to leave the people that come to this beautiful venue, World Cafe Live? What experience do you want them to be left with at the end of the night?
It's exactly what I said before about why we do it. I want every person who comes to World Cafe Live to leave here saying, I had so much fun. If that happens, they come back, this becomes a part of their life. I happen to believe that that music and good food are, you know, next in line after a roof over your head, the air we breathe, and the water we drink. So it's right up there. We take it for granted. And to know that they can come here and have this interactive, great experience where they're connected in an intimate way with the artist and the people who are supporting the artist and welcoming them as our guests. We don't have any customers at World Cafe Live. I should have said that early on. Everybody here knows we have no customers, we have guests. It's a big difference. This is our house, and we love our guests to come here and have fun with us.